Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really cracking open the fascinating world of Chilean wine.
It's a great topic. So much going on there.
Absolutely. We've got some excerpts here from a Produção Vitivinícola Note Chile that are going to be our guide. And our mission, really, is to pull out the most surprising, the most useful insights, sort of give you a fast track to understanding what makes Chilean wine, tick.
And what's truly remarkable, I think, about Chilean wine is how its geography has practically sculpted its vineyards. It's a story where the land itself is a main character.
Okay, so picture this then. Chile is this incredibly long, skinny country, right? Sandwiched between the massive Andes Mountains and the Pacific Ocean.
That's the shape. It's almost as if nature specifically carved out this ribbon of land just to grow amazing grapes.
Yeah, it looks like it on the map. So the Andes, let's start there. They're not just pretty mountains, are they?
Not at all. They're a vital shield. They block that humid air trying to come over from the Amazon basin, which gives Chile this beautifully dry, sunny climate, exactly what grapevines love.
And those huge mountains, they must also mess with the temperature, right? I mean, it gets pretty chilly at night up there.
Precisely. That big swing in temperature between day and night, we call it the diurnal range, it's a secret ingredient.
Right.
It helps the grapes develop this fantastic complexity. Aromas, flavors. Think of it like the grapes getting a cool rest after a hot day, concentrating all their goodness.
Ah, okay. So those cool nights keep things fresh, keep the acidity up, while the warm days get them ripe. Makes sense. And the Andes, they actually contribute to the soil, too.
Oh, absolutely. Over millennia, the mountains have broken down, creating this amazing variety of the soils across the wine regions. You've got volcanic soils, alluvial soils from rivers, colluvial from the slopes.
Wow.
And each type impacts the grapes differently. Volcanic soils, for example, they can give the wine a really distinct minerality.
Okay, and then there's a climate itself. Mediterranean, right. Hot, dry summers, mild, rainy winters. Sounds pretty much perfect.
It's almost textbook, perfect for grape growing. Those dry summers mean reliable ripening year after year, and the mild, wet winters give the vines exactly what they need when they're dormant.
But it's not just sunshine. That icy Humboldt current coming up the Pacific coast, that plays a part too, doesn't it?
A huge part, absolutely. This cold current acts like nature's air conditioner, especially near the coast. It really moderates the temperature.
Keeps things from getting too hot.
Exactly. And it also brings in this coastal fog. They call it the Camanchaca.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it drifts inland and provides this gentle, misty sort of hydration for the vines. Quite unique.
So, okay, let's recap. Giant mountains acting as a shield, a near-perfect Mediterranean climate, and this cooling ocean breeze bringing moisture. You can see why winemakers would be excited about that.
Definitely.
And I've read that Chile has all sorts of different landscapes packed into that narrow strip, too. It's not just flat plains.
No, what's fascinating is the sheer variety.
Okay.
You've got valleys, flat areas, rolling hills, really steep mountainsides, all within this relatively narrow country.
Uh-huh.
And this creates this mosaic of microclimates and soil types. It means different grape varieties can find their absolute sweet spot. Even within a small area, you can get big variations in altitude and how much sun the vines get.
Okay, and then there's something really, really unique, something that apparently puts Chile in a very exclusive club of wine regions. No phylloxera.
Ah, yes. This is a truly game-changing advantage.
Yeah.
Chile is one of the very few places on Earth, maybe the only major one, that hasn't been significantly hit by this devastating root louse.
The one that wiped out vineyards across Europe back in the day?
That's the one. Late 19th century, it was catastrophic.
So what does that mean for Chilean vines? They're original.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can keep their original, deep-rooted, ungrafted vines. Many people, many winemakers, believe this allows for a much purer expression of the terroir, that unique sense of place you get in the wine.
And why did they escape it? Just luck.
Well, partly the natural barriers helped enormously. The super high Andes to the east, the incredibly arid Atacama Desert to the north. These acted like natural defenses.
Right, natural quarantine.
Pretty much. So, yeah, it's this whole package, the mountains, the climate, the ocean's influence, the diverse landscapes, and crucially, no phylloxera that all comes together. It makes Chilean wine really distinct.
Yeah, it's quite a combination.
Precisely. This mix creates a truly unique and, in many ways, a privileged terroir.
Okay, now let's rewind a bit. Our sources mention winemaking starting way, way back in the 16th century. How did that all kick off?
Right. Connecting this to the bigger picture, the story really starts with the Spanish. Conquistadors, missionaries, arriving in the 16th century. They brought the first Vitis vinifera vines with them.
Vitis vinifera, that's the species for most quality wine grapes.
Yeah, that's the one. Cabernet, Merlot, Chardonnay. They're all Vitis vinifera.
And back then, it wasn't exactly for, sophisticated wine tasting parties.
No, not in the beginning. The main reasons were pretty practical. Daily sustenance, a bit of liquid nutrition, and very importantly for religious ceremonies. Wine was essential for celebrating Mass.
Ah, of course. And the first grapes that really settled in were Pays and Moscatel de Alexandria.
Correct. These varieties turned out to be remarkably adaptable to Chile's climate. Pays especially became the workhorse grape for centuries. Really fundamental.
But being a colony so far from Spain, that must have created some issues.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer distance made trade incredibly difficult. There was a shortage of skilled labor, proper winemaking equipment. It wasn't easy.
And didn't Spain try to protect its own wine industry?
Yes. On top of everything else, the Spanish crown often put protectionist policies in place. They wanted to favor wine production back in Spain, which definitely limited growth in the colonies like Chile.
So what's the lasting impact of that early colonial period then?
Well, what's interesting is the resilience of those first grapes, Pays and Moscatel. There's actually a growing movement today among Chilean producers to rediscover and revive them.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It also established this deep-rooted wine culture in Chile, and maybe an ongoing appreciation for more artisanal, even organic ways of making wine.
Okay, then fast forward to the 19th century. It sounds like things took a major turn. French influence arrives.
This was a pivotal moment, absolutely. After Chile gained independence, it started looking towards Europe for inspiration, and France, with its long-respected winemaking history, became a primary influence.
And that's when the famous French grapes started showing up. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot.
Exactly. We saw the introduction of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Pinot Noir, and crucially, as we'll discuss, Carmenère. This really marked a shift towards modernizing Chilean winemaking, focusing on higher quality.
And it wasn't just the vines they imported, but the know-how as well.
Precisely. French enologists, winemakers, and viticulturists, grape growers, brought invaluable knowledge. Cultivation techniques, winemaking methods, including the use of oak barrels for aging.
Oak barrels. That adds complexity.
Big time. It adds complexity, structure, aging potential. This injection of French expertise was absolutely key to elevating the quality of Chilean wines and helping them gain recognition internationally.
Okay, now let's zoom in on Carmenère, because this story sounds amazing. A grape that basically disappeared from its home in Bordeaux, only to pop up again in Chile, mistaken for something else.
It truly is a fascinating tale.
Yeah.
Carmenère, it originates in Bordeaux. It was once quite valued there, but it was always a bit tricky to grow. Susceptible to diseases, often struggled to ripen fully in Bordeaux's climate.
So how on earth did it get to Chile?
Well, what's intriguing is that it was likely brought over inadvertently, probably mixed in with cuttings of other French varieties like Merlot, which it resembles. And crucially, this happened before the phylloxera crisis hit Europe.
So it escaped the plague, so to speak.
Exactly, and it just thrived in Chile's vineyards.
It really did. Chile's unique combination of warm, sunny days and those dry conditions turned out to be perfect for Carmenère. But for years, decades even, it was mistaken for Merlot because the leaves look so similar.
Until 1994. Right. That's when the French grape expert, the ampelographer Jean-Michel Boursicot, made the discovery.
Yes. His identification of these supposed Merlot vines as the long-lost Carmenère was a landmark moment, a huge rediscovery.
Must have caused quite a stir.
Oh, massive excitement. It really put Chile on the map in a new way and established it as the new and really the only significant home for this distinctive grape.
And Chile really ran with it, didn't they?
Absolutely. Huge investment in understanding Carmenère better, researching how best to grow it, how to make wine from it, to highlight its unique qualities.
Like those red and black fruit aromas.
Exactly. And that subtle hint of spice, or sometimes green bell pepper if it's not quite ripe, and its characteristically soft tannins, it's become a national symbol now, really part of Chile's cultural identity.
It's an amazing comeback story for a grape.
Totally. So, okay, let's jump forward again. The 20th century sounds like another big wave of change hit Chilean winemaking then.
Indeed. The 20th century brought substantial transformations. Now, while Chile initially escaped the worst of phylloxera, it did eventually arrive in some areas, which meant some vineyards had to be replanted, often onto resistant rootstocks.
Okay, so it wasn't entirely immune forever.
Not entirely, but the impact was far less devastating than in Europe. But beyond that, there was this widespread move to modernize wineries. Stainless steel tanks became common for fermentation, offering better hygiene and temperature control.
Right, temperature control is huge in winemaking.
Crucial. And a more precise, considered use of oak barrels for aging. The whole focus really sharpened onto producing higher quality wines that truly expressed where they came from, their terroir.
Which brings us back full circle to those natural advantages we talked about earlier. It sounds like the 20th century saw a deeper appreciation, a real understanding of how the Andes, the climate, the Humboldt Current all work together.
Exactly. That protective shield of the Andes, the way it creates those vital temperature swings, contributes to the diverse soils. And, importantly, its role as the source of pure snowmelt water for irrigation. All became even more valued.
Can't make wine without water.
Precisely. And the ideal Mediterranean climate, the cooling effect of the Humboldt Current, the incredible variety of landscapes, and that ongoing relative freedom from phylloxera. These remained key assets that winemakers really started to harness intentionally.
So by the 20th century, there was this real understanding of Chile's unique, privileged terroir and a serious effort to make the absolute most of it.
That's a good way to put it, a conscious effort.
Now, Chile isn't just one giant vineyard, obviously. Our sources talk about 4 main wine zones, right? Based on climate and geography.
That's right. These zones give you a broad framework, and they offer a fascinating spectrum of wine styles as you move from north to south.
Let's start way up north. Atacama and Coquimbo regions. That sounds, well, borderline desert. Pretty challenging for growing grapes.
The northern zone definitely pushes the limits. Areas like Copiapó and Huasco, near the Atacama Desert, they require a real pioneering spirit. But Coquimbo, with its valleys Elqui, Limarí, and Chuapa, it acts as a kind of transition zone. You get quite different terroirs even within Coquimbo.
Elqui is famous for high-altitude vineyards, right? And really good Syrah. And isn't that also Pisco country?
Correct on all counts.
Huh.
The high elevations in Elqui mean intense sunlight, but also very clear, cool nights. Ideal for developing concentrated flavors in Syrah. And yes, it's a major center for Pisco production, Chile's national spirit.
And Limarí. That has more coastal influence, and I read something about chalky soils. Could that be why it has potential for maybe a more delicate style of Carmenère, different from other regions?
Well, what's intriguing about Limarí is definitely the minerality people find in the wines, often attributed to those calcareous chalky soils. The cooler coastal influence certainly suggests you'd get a different expression of grapes like Carmenère, perhaps more restrained, more elegant compared to warmer inland spots.
Makes sense. Then you've got Chuapa, a bit further inland. Sounds like it gets pretty hot and dry there, leading to really concentrated fruit flavor.
Exactly. The hotter, drier conditions in Chuapa tend to produce grapes with a lot of powerful, concentrated fruit character, bold wines.
Okay, moving south now into the central zone. This includes Aconcagua and the huge Central Valley. Aconcagua, being close to those massive mountains, must have some unique characteristics. Complex reds, fresh whites.
Yes, the proximity to the Andes, including the towering Aconcagua Peak itself, significantly influences the vineyards there. It contributes to that combination of richness in reds and vibrancy or freshness in whites.
And then the Central Valley, you called it the engine room of Chilean wine. That's where we find the big names. Maipo, Rapel, Curico, Maule.
Precisely. The Central Valley is where the vast majority of Chilean wine gets made. Maipo is the historic heartland, especially famous for its elegant Cabernet Sauvignon. It's home to some of Chile's oldest, most respected wineries. Think Conchitoro, Cocina Macul, Santa Carolina, Santa Rita. Real heritage there.
Right. And Rapel, which I learned is actually divided into Cachapol and Colchagua valleys. That's where Carmenère really seems to hit its stride, offering versatile quality.
Absolutely. Colchagua, in particular, has become a benchmark region for high-quality Chilean Carmenère. It really showcases the grape's potential. But it's also great for Cab Sauv, Syrah, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. A very versatile region.
And Curico. Described as high volume, but also focused on quality and innovation. Miguel Torres Chile was mentioned as having a big influence there.
Miguel Torres Chile, the Spanish company, was indeed a pioneer in Curico back in the late 70s, early 80s. They brought in modern techniques, stainless steel, focused on quality, and really helped lift the whole region.
Interesting. And then there's Maule, the oldest winemaking region in Chile, apparently, with that strong heritage of the original grapes, Pais and Moscatel. Are those old vineyards still around?
Yes, the Maule Valley holds a very special place in Chilean wine history. And the fact that many old Pais and Moscatel vineyards still exist, some over 100, even 200 years old, is incredible. It's a real link to the past.
Wow. Okay. Heading even further south now. The southern zone, Itata, Biobío, and Malleco. Cooler, more humid down there.
Generally, yes. Cooler and wetter than the Central Valley. And this is another area where those really old heritage vineyards, especially Pays and Moscatel, are being rediscovered and revitalized, often with a focus on more artisanal, minimal intervention winemaking.
So a different style again.
Definitely. More about letting the old vines speak for themselves.
Emblematic, right down at the southern edge of this zone. Volcanic soils producing elegant Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, maybe a bit like Burgundy, but with volcanoes and an Atlantic influence.
Well, Mayeco represents a more recent frontier for cool climate viticulture in Chile. The volcanic soils do seem to contribute a certain finesse and minerality to the wines, especially Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. It's an exciting developing region.
And finally, the Austral zone. Cautina and Osorno, the real southern frontier. Coldest wine regions experimenting with cool climate varieties like Pinot, Chardonnay, even Riesling on volcanic soils again. Sounds cutting edge.
This is where you really see the spirit of experimentation. Pushing the boundaries of viticulture in Chile into these more challenging, cooler environments. Cautin shows potential for Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris, even Syrah, surprisingly. Osorno is really just beginning to explore its possibilities. It's avant-garde stuff.
It's just amazing, isn't it? The sheer diversity packed into this long, thin country. Each region really does sound like it has its own unique personality, its own story.
Indeed. Chile's geography creates this truly remarkable tapestry of wine regions, each one offering something different.
Okay, let's talk about the stars themselves, the grapes. Chile's got the big international names, its own native grapes, and these intriguing Criolla grapes you mentioned.
Exactly. It's a rich and varied cast of characters, contributing to the diverse styles of Chilean wines.
Starting with the reds, Cabernet Sauvignon is obviously a huge player, famous for firm tannins, black fruit, spice, backbone of MIPO blends, right?
Cabernet Sauvignon is definitely a cornerstone. Provides structure, aging potential, that classic character. Chile does it very well.
And then, of course, Carmenère, the adopted star. Deep ruby color, versatile styles, red and black fruit, maybe that hint of spice or herb, soft tannins.
Carmenère really captures something unique about Chilean red wine. It's become so emblematic.
Merlot, the grape Carmenère was mistaken for, known for softer tannins, velvety texture.
Yeah, Merlot tends to offer a slightly rounder, more approachable, fruit-forward style compared to Cabernet Sauvignon, generally speaking.
Syrah seems super adaptable in Chile, different regional expressions, black pepper, dark fruit notes, good body.
Syrahs are fascinating in Chile because it really showcases the regional differences. You can get elegant, peppery Syrah from cooler spots like Elqui or Leiria, and then richer, more concentrated versions from warmer areas like Colchagua or Aconcagua.
And then there's Pays, that first Vitis vinifera grape in the Americas. Huge historical significance. Lighter style, red fruit, earthy notes. It's great that producers like Miguel Torres are championing its revival.
The renewed focus on Pays is wonderful. It connects modern Chilean wine right back to its roots. It typically makes lighter-bodied, fresh, fruity wines, often with an earthy complexity. Very drinkable.
And there are other reds, too, yeah. Malbec, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, Mourvèdre, Garnacha, Carignan, often used in blends, I suppose.
Yes, those often play important supporting roles, adding complexity, color, or structure to blends, but you do see some interesting single varietal bottlings, too, especially Carignan from Molet's old vines.
Okay, what about the whites? Chardonnay is major. Sparkling wines, crisp, unoaked styles, rich barrel-fermented ones. Casablanca and Limery seem key for Chardonnay.
Chardonnay thrives in Chile's diverse climates. You get everything from zingy, mineral-driven styles in coastal areas like Casablanca and Limery to richer, more tropical fruited versions from slightly warmer inland sites. Very adaptable.
Sauvignon Blanc. Casablanca seems to be the star region for that. Cool climate, high acidity, citrus, herbaceous notes, minerality.
Casablanca really put Chilean Sauvignon Blanc on the map. It's known for that vibrant, intense, cool climate character, very refreshing. San Antonio and Leyda nearby are also excellent for it.
Moscatel de Alejandría, aromatic, used for sweet wines and pisco, floral, fruity, significant in Male in the north.
Yes, Moscatel holds significant cultural weight, very aromatic, grapey, floral notes. Used for dry wine sometimes, but also important for late-harvest sweet wines, and of course, pisco.
Pedro Ximénez, mostly up north in Huasco and Elqui, can make dry whites, but also those really rich, luscious sweet wines like in Spain, dried fruit, honey aromas.
Exactly. It shows its versatility up there. It can be crisp and dry, or unctuously sweet when the grapes are dried.
And then you've got others, Viognier, Gewürztraminer, Semillon, Chenin Blanc, Riesling, Pinot Gris. Quite a mix.
Chile is experimenting more and more with alternative white varieties, finding the right spots for them.
And finally, let's touch on the Criollas again. You called them a genetic and cultural treasure, adapted to different terroirs. It's great they're getting recognition in DOs like Ita and Bio Bio for País, and Mole for País, and Moscatel. Producers like Miguel Torres Chile and Di Martino are leading the charge.
Yes, the growing appreciation for Criolla grapes, País, Moscatel, and others like Sinsalt, which often grows alongside them, it's part of a broader movement towards authenticity, heritage, and sustainability in Chilean wine. These grapes are part of Chile's identity.
So Chile really does offer this incredible palette of grapes. International stars alongside its own unique historical varieties really reflects the diversity of the place.
Precisely. The spectrum of colors, aromas, and flavors in Chilean wine is truly vibrant and incredibly varied.
Okay, so the grapes are grown, they're harvested. Let's talk about what happens next, the viticulture, growing the grapes, and the winemaking itself in Chile.
Right. Careful vineyard management is absolutely crucial, especially given Chile's generally dry climate in the main regions. Smart irrigation is key. Managing how the grapes ripen this is particularly important for a late ripening grape like Carmenère. You need to get it right.
Avoid those green flavor.
Exactly. And controlling any potential diseases to ensure you get healthy, high-quality fruit. Also, managing yields how much fruit each vine produces. Generally, lower yields mean more concentrated flavors in the grapes. Quality over quantity.
It sounds like a real balancing act, a mix of traditional know-how and modern science.
That's a great way to put it. Chilean winemaking today is a fascinating interplay of respecting tradition and embracing innovation.
And making wine from Carmenère specifically, it seems to have its own set of challenges, right? Especially taming that potential greenness, that herbaceous character, if it's not fully ripe. You mentioned harvesting later.
Achieving full physiological ripeness, not just sugar ripeness, but flavor and tannin ripeness too, is absolutely vital for Carmenère. This often means harvesting it later than, say, Merlot. Then in the winery, winemakers use a whole orchestra of techniques. How long they let the skins soak with the juice that's maceration for color and tannin extraction, carefully controlling fermentation temperatures, choosing the right vessel, stainless steel, concrete, oak fast.
Lots of choices.
Lots of choices. Often using malolactic fermentation, that's a secondary fermentation that softens the acidity, gives it a rounder mouthfeel. And oak aging is frequently used not just for flavor, but to add complexity and help soften Carmenère's tannins further. It's all about finding that perfect synergy between Chile's terroir and precise winemaking to let the grape express itself authentically.
And the Maipo Valley being so historic, they must have really honed the art of transforming Cabernet Sauvignon and Carmenère over the years, blending tradition and innovation.
Absolutely. Maipo has generations of experience with these grapes.
What about all the different ways Chilean wines are aged or refined? We hear about oak barrels, French, American giving vanilla, coconut, spice notes.
Right. Oak aging imparts those familiar flavors, but crucially, it also allows for microoxygenation, tiny amounts of oxygen getting through the wood, which helps soften tannins and integrate the wine's components.
Okay, and stainless steel tanks, that's for keeping things fresh and fruity.
Exactly. Stainless steel is inert. It's perfect for preserving the pure primary fruit character of the wine, especially aromatic whites or lighter reds where you don't want oak influence.
Concrete vats seem popular too. What do they bring?
Concrete is interesting. It's porous, so it allows for that gentle microoxygenation like oak, but it doesn't impart any flavor. So you get the textural benefits, the integration, while preserving fruit purity and minerality. Very popular for high-end wines now.
And clay amphorae. That sounds ancient. For a more minimalist, terroir-focused style.
Yes, amphorae are making a comeback. Like concrete, they're neutral vessels, but they often give a unique texture to the wine. It's about letting the grape in the place speak with minimal winemaker intervention.
Right. And larger wooden vats, foudres, less intense oak than small barrels.
Correct. Because the surface area to volume ratio is much lower, large foudres impart less oak flavor and allow for slower, gentler maturation compared to standard barriques.
And then, of course, aging happens in the bottle itself, right? Especially in bigger bottles, magnums, allows for slow evolution.
Yes, bottle aging is the final stage of refinement for many fine wines. It allows the components to integrate further, develop tertiary aromas, things like leather, tobacco, forest floor, and for the tannins to resolve. Larger formats age even more slowly and gracefully.
And we can't forget the art of blending, combining different grape varieties or even different vineyard blocks to create something more complex and balanced than the sum of its parts. Especially important for those classic Chilean blends with Cabernet Sauvignon and Carmenère.
Blending is a crucial skill. It allows winemakers to fine-tune the final wine, achieving balance, complexity, and consistency year after year. It's a real art form.
So, yeah, there's clearly a huge amount of artistry, technical skill, and deep understanding of the craft that goes into every bottle of Chilean wine, from the vineyard right through to the cellar and the final blend.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the passion and dedication you find throughout the Chilean wine industry.
Okay, so now you're standing in the wine shop, staring at a wall of Chilean wines. How do you make sense of the labels? Let's talk classification and labeling.
Right. The system can seem confusing, but it's there to help guide you towards the wine's origin and maybe its general style.
You often see words like Reserva, Gran Reserva, on Chilean labels. What do those actually mean? Are they legally defined?
They generally indicate a certain minimum amount of aging the wine has received, often including time in barrel and bottle before release. However, the specific requirements can vary, and importantly, they don't automatically guarantee a certain quality level. A Reserva from one producer might be quite different from another's. Quality still depends heavily on the producer and the specific wine.
So, a helpful hint, but not the whole story.
Exactly. More reliable indicators are the denominations of origin, or DOs.
Right, DOs.
These are legally defined geographical areas like Maipo Valley, Colchagua Valley, Casablanca Valley, recognized for having unique characteristics that influence the wine. The DO system guarantees the wine's origin.
And does it regulate other things too, like which grapes can be grown?
Yes, the regulations, overseen by the Ministry of Agriculture, can specify permitted grape varieties, certain vineyard practices, winemaking techniques, and sometimes minimum aging requirements for specific DOs or wine styles within them. It aims to protect the characteristic style of wines from that place.
And it's interesting, as you mentioned, that even those heritage Criollo grapes are now being recognized within specific DOs, Itada and Bio for País, Mole for País, and Muscatel. That seems significant.
It really is. It validates the importance of these grapes and these historic regions within the official framework.
Now, sometimes the label might give clues about the broader region within a valley, right? I've seen Costa, Entre Cordilleras, and Andes. What do those tell us?
Yes, this is an additional geographical indication system introduced more recently. Costa refers to the coastal areas influenced by the Pacific. Wines from here, like Casablanca or Lleida, tend to be fresher, more mineral, great for whites, and cool climate reds.
Okay.
Ante Cordilleras means between the mountain ranges. This is the central, flatter, often warmer part of the valleys, like central Maipo or Colchagua, typically where you find fuller-bodied, more structured red wines.
Right, the heartland.
And Andes refers to vineyards planted on the foothills of the Andes Mountains at higher altitudes, places like Alto Maipo or Alto Cachapol. These areas often produce wines with great intensity, elegance, and structure due to the altitude and specific soils.
That's actually really helpful for understanding the style. And then, of course, the label will always have the basics. The specific DO, the grape variety or blend, the producer's name, the vintage year, alcohol content.
All the essential information should be there to help you make an informed choice. The label is a map, if you know how to read it.
Okay, great. Let's zoom out again now and look at the bigger picture. The market for Chilean wine, its global standing, and what the future might hold. Carmenère seems to have played a massive role in Chile's international success story.
Oh, undoubtedly. Chile's reputation for consistent quality, excellent value for money, and then this unique, compelling story of Carmenère's rediscovery. It all came together perfectly. It gave Chile a real point of difference in a crowded global market.
And Carmenère really has become central to Chile's wine identity, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. It's elevated Chile's reputation beyond just being a source of reliable, inexpensive wine. It offers this distinctive sensory profile, those unique flavors and softer tannins, and a versatility that appeals to a wide range of consumers and pairs well with many foods.
We mentioned some top Carmenère producers earlier, Viña Carmen, which played a role in the rediscovery, La Postol with their iconic Clos Sapalta blend, Montes with the famous Purple Angel, Erzuries doing great things in Aconcagua. It sounds like there's serious dedication at the high end.
Definitely. Those are some leading lights, producing truly world-class Carmenère and Carmenère-based blends. But there are many, many other Chilean producers at various price points crafting excellent examples now. Senorita, Conchitoro, Gusinho Macul, Miguel Torres Chile, the list goes on. And many smaller boutique wineries too.
Right. Now, consumer tastes are always shifting. People are maybe looking for more diversity, different styles, even within Carmenère. What are the main challenges and opportunities for this grape looking ahead?
Well, one key challenge, as we touched on, is climate change. Managing ripeness for a late ripener like Carmenère in potentially hotter, drier conditions will require ongoing adaptation in the vineyard.
Makes sense.
Another challenge, or maybe opportunity, is continuing to educate consumers, helping them understand the different styles Carmenère can produce, from fresh and fruity to rich and complex, depending on where it's grown and how it's made, moving beyond just a single perception of the grape.
And what about wine tourism? Tourism seems to be booming globally. Is that a big thing in Chile, especially in Carmenère country like Colchagua and Catapal?
Yes, enotourism is definitely a growing and important sector for Chile. It offers a fantastic way to showcase the wines, the landscapes, the culture, and it provides sustainable economic benefits for the regions. Colchagua, in particular, has very well-developed wine tourism infrastructure. But Maipo, Casablanca, and others are major destinations too. It requires ongoing investment in infrastructure and services, but the potential is huge.
So looking at the broader future for Chilean wine, what's the outlook?
I think the future is bright, but it relies on continuing to innovate, adapting to climate change, responding to evolving market demands, embracing new technologies where appropriate, but always with a strong focus on sustainability.
Sustainability seems key.
Absolutely. And further exploring and highlighting the unique terroirs of its incredibly diverse regions. Chile needs to keep telling those stories, from the Atacama down to the Austral Zone, and solidify its position not just as a reliable source, but as a producer of truly distinctive, high-quality, and sustainable wines from unique places.
And that commitment to sustainability, you mentioned Chile being a benchmark, with pioneers like Miguel Torres Chile leading the charge on things like carbon neutrality, organic practices, water efficiency. That seems like a major strength.
It is. Chile's proactive approach, formalized in a national sustainability code covering environmental protection, social equity, and economic viability, is really impressive. It's becoming a core part of the Chilean wine identity, and consumers are increasingly looking for that.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. For those of us who love pairing wine with food, Chilean cuisine, what's it like?
Oh, Chilean gastronomy is fantastic. It's this wonderful, diverse tapestry blending indigenous ingredients and traditions, corn, potatoes, quinoa, seafood with Spanish influences, lots of stews, pies, grilled meats, amazing seafood along the coast.
Sounds delicious. And Carmenère, with its softer tannins and spice notes, seems like it would be a brilliant match for many classic Chilean dishes. Things like pastel de choclo, that corn and meat pie, empanadas, cazuelas, those hearty stews.
Carmenère's profile makes it incredibly versatile with food. Its moderate tannins and savory, sometimes spicy notes work beautifully with those kinds of dishes. It doesn't overwhelm them. Great with grilled meats, too, like a classic Chilean asado.
And it probably makes sense to think regionally, too, right? Coastal wines like Sauvignon Blanc or cool climate Chardonnay with all that amazing seafood. Richer Central Valley reds like Cabernet or Syrah with heartier meat dishes. Maybe those lighter southern wines like Pais or Pinot Noir with game or poultry.
Exactly. Exploring those local food and wine pairings is one of the great joys of discovering Chilean wine. The synergy can be fantastic.
Sounds like a good reason to visit. Which brings us back to enotourism. For anyone thinking of a trip, exploring Chile's wine region sounds like an incredible sensory journey.
It really is. Enotourism in Chile offers a truly immersive experience. You get to walk the vineyards, see the Andes or the Pacific, meet the winemakers, taste the wines right where they're made. It connects you to the place in a really powerful way.
And those key regions we discussed, Maipo Valley, so close to Santiago, offering both historic estates and modern wineries. Casablanca, with its coastal beauty and focus on white wines, and Colchagua Valley, famous for Carmenère and red blends with great hotels and restaurants. They all sound like must-visit spots.
Those are definitely the big three for tourism, offering well-established routes and experiences. But other regions like San Antonio, Leyda, Limarí, even Elqui up north, or Maule and Atata further south offer unique, often more off-the-beaten-path experiences too.
And what kinds of things can you actually do? Vineyard tours, obviously, tastings.
Oh, much more. Cellar visits, blending sessions where you create your own wine, food pairing lunches, cooking classes focusing on local cuisine, harvest festivals, horseback riding through the vineyards, staying overnight at winery guest houses. The options are constantly expanding. And many wineries are incorporating sustainability into their tourism offerings too.
Wow, sounds amazing. Well, this has been an absolutely captivating deep dive into the world of Chilean wine. Seriously, we've covered so much ground.
We really have.
From that fascinating interplay of its unique terroir The mountains, the ocean, the climate, no phylloxera to its rich history, the incredible story of Carmenère's rediscovery, the sheer diversity of its wine regions from north to south, and that strong commitment Chile has to quality and sustainability.
What's truly striking, I think, is how all these different elements, the natural factors, the historical path, the human element, the grapes themselves, have just woven together to create the distinctive character of Chilean wine today. It's quite a story.
It really is. So here's a final thought maybe for you to swirl around in your mind. Given the extraordinary way that natural forces and human ingenuity have shaped Chilean winemaking, sometimes against the odds, what other unexpected corners of the globe might emerge as exciting new wine regions as our global climate continues to shift and change?
That's a fascinating question to ponder.
Maybe this deep dive has inspired you to go out and explore the diverse world of Chilean wines for yourself, or perhaps even consider a trip to experience its vibrant wine culture firsthand. Thanks so much for joining us on the deep dive.